Hat, sunglasses, Pepsi, notes, sources, thick skin. Check. You already know. Let's go. Welcome to Golden Blue today, everybody. This is a college football channel. So if you like college football, hit the like and subscribe button. It's that simple. Also, send gear to represent your team and be a part of my background forever. All you have to do is send it to P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page. We have a lot of great perks over there. The perk that people seem to enjoy the most, of course, is the score prediction contest where we award $20 every single week to whoever gets closest to the actual score of the game that I pick. We also did a championship week. I will award $25 to that winner. And right now is the best time to join Patreon because we are going to do the bowl prediction contest. First place prize will win $50. Second place prize is an autographed Golden Blue Dude flat bill hat. And the third place prize is a shout out. And the more Patreons we get, the higher we can bump up the prize. So if we get up to $300 worth of Patreon pledges, we will bump up the prize to $75. If we get up to $400 worth of Patreon pledges, we'll bump the prize up to $100, and so on and so forth. So there's even an incentive for current Patreon members to encourage other people to join Patreon. That way the prize goes even higher. I'll leave the link to the Patreon page in the description of this video. Well, a lot of y'all have been asking me to make this particular video. The video on the two teams that I was the most wrong about in the Big 12. Honestly, these two teams were probably the only teams that I was wrong about in the Big 12. I expected Oklahoma to take a significant step backwards. Not as big as what I thought, but yeah, a significant step backwards. I expected Kansas State to be a dark horse in the Big 12, and what happened? They won the Big 12 championship. I expected Oklahoma State to take a significant step backwards because they lost Knowles, a great defensive coordinator, to Ohio State. And they did take a significant step backwards. I expected Baylor to take a step backwards. I expected Kansas to be a much better team and possibly make a bowl. That's exactly what happened. They finished 6-6 and they made a bowl. But these two teams in the Big 12, I was massively off. About as wrong as you could be about a team. The first team is, well, you could probably guess, and that's West Virginia. And you could call it because of my homerism. I probably let blue and gold glasses get in my way to see what really was happening at West Virginia. But you know what? We made a lot of great off-season moves. We went out and got Graham Harrell, great offensive coordinator, play caller, and that attracted JT Daniels. So we had a proven, talented quarterback. So I thought our offense was going to get much better, which it actually did. West Virginia's offense got much better this year. Problem is, I didn't see the defense falling off a cliff. It didn't just get worse. It fell off a cliff. That's about the worst defense I've ever seen at West Virginia. And this is counting some very bad defenses that we saw under Dana Holgorsen. But the thing with Dana Holgorsen is we usually had an elite offense to make up for some of that. This year we didn't have an elite offense. Better than last year's, but it wasn't elite. West Virginia was a bad team. What was my prediction for West Virginia? Well, I predicted them to go either 8-4 or 9-3. I predicted them to lose at Texas, which we did. I predicted them to lose at Texas Tech, which we did. And I predicted them to lose at Oklahoma State, which we actually beat Oklahoma State. And then possibly lose either at Iowa State or Oklahoma. That's how I came up with either 8-4 or 9-3. What actually happened? Well, what actually happened was a big old train wreck. West Virginia started off on the road to number 17 Pitt, the Backyard Brawl. I was there. It was a great game, but it was a loss. I predicted West Virginia to beat Pitt. We did not beat Pitt. We lost 38-31. Then the next game, it's supposed to be a gimme game, right? Kansas at home. Nope, Kansas was much better, and West Virginia was just not very good this year. We lose 55-42 in overtime. Hey, at least we did take them to overtime, but we lost to Kansas. Of course, I predicted West Virginia to beat Kansas. Next game, FCS Towson. That actually was a gimme game. I predicted we would win that game, and we did win that game. At Virginia Tech. Didn't realize that was going to be a gimme game, but it turned out to be a gimme game. I predicted us to win that game, and we did, 38-10. Then at Texas, I predicted West Virginia to lose at Texas, and we did, but we got throttled 38-20. I was hoping we would be a little bit more competitive, which, by the way, I was right about Texas as well. I predicted them to go 8-4. Next game, a home game against Baylor. I predicted West Virginia to win that game. We did. We pulled off a squeaker, 43-40, so chalk one up for Golden Blue Dude. Next, a road game to Texas Tech. I predicted us to lose that game, and we did, but we got slaughtered 48-10. My gosh, Texas Tech wasn't that good of a team, but we made them look pretty good. Next game, number 7 TCU. I predicted West Virginia to win this game. We got beat 41-31, and TCU was a really good team. I'll talk about them here in just a minute. After that, Iowa State. I said it was possible that we could lose to Iowa State. Well, we did lose to Iowa State 31-14. Then we come back home and beat Oklahoma just like I predicted. Hey, a win's a win, and I'll take it. And yes, we did beat Oklahoma 23-20. So at least we broke that losing streak, right? The silver lining of this very dark cloud of the 2022 college football season for West Virginia. Next game, number 15, Kansas State. I cautiously predicted West Virginia to win that game, and of course, we did not win that game. We lost 48-31. And then the last game at Oklahoma State, I actually predicted West Virginia to lose that game, and we actually won that game. Of course. One of the losses I predicted, I was wrong about. We won that game 24-19. I was completely wrong about West Virginia last year. Not only did we not go 8-4 or 9-3, but we finished 5-7, no bowl, and we finished 9th out of 10 teams in the Big 12. That's really, really bad. We averaged 30.6 points per game, which is 55th, so our offense was much better, but we allowed 32.9 points per game, which was 114th. So not only was our defense worse, but it was one of the worst defenses that I've ever seen at West Virginia in my entire lifetime. And I've been a West Virginia fan since 1988, so I've seen some bad defenses. This was the worst. And that's why in my updated predictions, because of what I've seen in the transfer portal and all the players that have declared for the NFL draft, I'm predicting West Virginia to go 4-8. I'm playing reverse psychology, and I'm hoping that Neil Brown proves me wrong. I highly doubt it. I actually think West Virginia will go 4-8, but hopefully he'll prove me wrong. Who was the other team that I was very, very, very wrong about? TCU. I owe an apology to the TCU fans. Guys, I was very wrong about you. You had a great season, and I predicted TCU to compete for the bottom of the barrel in the Big 12. I was wrong. I predicted TCU to go either 3-9 or 4-8. Wow, how wrong can you be? You can't be much more wrong than that. I mean, West Virginia, yes, I was wrong, but I was even more wrong with TCU this year. But I don't think a lot of people saw TCU going undefeated. But most people were predicting them to go either 7-5 or 8-4. Nope, not good old gold and blue, dude. I didn't see much hope in TCU, and of course, I was completely wrong. What did I predict for TCU for 2022? Well, I predicted them to go either 3-9 or 4-8. That first game at Colorado, I predicted that to be a loss, and Colorado was one of the worst teams that we've seen in quite some time, and TCU was one of the best teams that we've seen this year. So, of course, I was completely wrong on that. TCU goes on the road and mops the floor with Colorado 38-13. Next game was FCS Tarleton. That was a gimme win. I predicted the win. They did win 59-17. At SMU, I actually predicted that win, and they did win 42-34. Then number 18, Oklahoma, I predicted TCU to lose that game. Of course, TCU blew Oklahoma out 55-24. At number 19, Kansas, I predicted TCU to possibly lose to Kansas. And of course, they beat Kansas 38-31, but Kansas was better. So at least I got the Kansas prediction right as far as how good they were going to be. After that, number 8, Oklahoma State at home. I predicted TCU to lose that game. What happens? They win in overtime 43-40. But a win's a win, and going unbluted once again is wrong. After that, number 17, Kansas State at home. I predicted TCU to lose that game. It took a come-from-behind win and Kansas State getting down to their third string, but TCU wins 38-28 and proves golden bloated wrong again. Then on the road to West Virginia, of course, you knew that I predicted West Virginia was going to win that game, and of course, you already knew that TCU won that game 41-31. Next game was Texas Tech. I actually predicted TCU to win this game, so I got that prediction right. 34-24, they did beat Texas Tech. Then at number 18, Texas, I predicted Texas to win, and of course, TCU won 17-10. At Baylor, I predicted Baylor to win, and of course, TCU wins on a last-second field goal, 29-28, but a win's a win, right? And finally, Iowa State at home, and I stupidly predicted TCU to lose to Iowa State, and they blew Iowa State out 64-14. So I predicted TCU to go either 3-9 or 4-8. They end up going 12-0 in the regular season to go to the Big 12 championship and lose to Kansas State, number 10 Kansas State, 31-28. So I was right about Kansas State being the dark horse. They won the Big 12. But TCU, man, you guys proved me about as wrong as anybody could be. Y'all averaged 40.3 points per game, which is 6th. One of the best offenses in the entire nation, and allowed 25 points per game, which is 58th. So not a bad defense, but it's not elite. And instead of finishing almost dead last, or maybe dead last like I predicted, you guys finished Big 12 runner-up, and you're playing Michigan in the first round of the playoffs. My gosh, these are the two worst predictions that I made the entire offseason. I actually hit a lot of good ones. Like, I nailed pretty much most of the Big 12 except for TCU and West Virginia. So there you go, my two worst predictions that I made in the preseason regarding the Big 12. I'll go conference by conference and give you my worst predictions for each conference. For the Big 12, it is most definitely TCU and West Virginia. So y'all let me know in the comments section if you were one of the viewers that watched me predict West Virginia to go either 8-4 or 9-3 and predict TCU to go either 3-9 or 4-8. What were your initial thoughts? Did you think I was crazy? Because apparently I was. And number two, how surprised were you of how bad West Virginia actually was and how good TCU turned out to be? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.